Hello, I'm Dee Brown CEO, and welcome to this episode of Self Made. My guest today is a Grammy Award-winning producer, musician, and songwriter. Please help me welcome Blac Elvis to Self Made. Elvis, I'm glad to have you on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Listen, you have had an amazing career, and so I want the viewers to be able to understand your journey because you come from very humble beginnings. So if you would, talk to me about your childhood. Where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
Well, I actually grew up in a small town called Clarksdale, Mississippi. I was born there and raised there. I'm sure you know where that is.
Absolutely. I'm from there as well.
Yeah. So man, growing up, grew up on Bolivar, a street called Bolivar, and some would call it the hood.
Yeah.
In the brickyard, we had my grandparents lived in the brickyard, so I spent a lot of time up there.
Yeah.
But I pretty much grew up in church. Grew up in church because my mom, she's a missionary, and she had us in church all the time.
Yeah.
So I grew up in church. I started playing the piano when I was like 12 years old. Started learning how to play the organ and the piano, and it just kind of went off from there. I had a pretty regular childhood.
Yeah.
I knew what I wanted to be when I was 12 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
And so 12 is when you developed your love for music.
No, not really. So here's a funny twist, right?
Okay.
So my mom is a nurse, so she takes me to this house. It's this huge, gigantic, studded house. And I walk up to the house and I say, "Mom, whose house is this?" She's like, "This is Dr. Caesar's house." The house was ginormous, right?
Yeah.
Being from a small town,
Right.
I've never seen a house like that.
Right.
So when I saw the house, I was like, I want a house like this when I grow up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, what kind?" I said, "Whose house is this?" She said, "It's Dr. Caesar's house." And I said, "What kind of doctor is he?" She said, "He's a gynecologist." So from that early age of 12, my goal and my dream was to become a gynecologist. So
Dr. Caesar delivered my oldest daughter.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow. Yes. So he was my inspiration of wanting to be a gynecologist through my whole entire childhood. Like
Really?
I wasn't even thinking about music. My goal was to become a gynecologist.
So you get a big house.
Yeah, that was it.
So when did you develop your passion for music?
Well, I would say I had a passion for it. I started playing when I was 12, so around maybe 14 to 15 years old, my granddaddy, Big Jack Johnson, he's a blues player.
Right.
So I was always around music, and he always wanted to take me to the juke joint, and because he wanted me to play for him, but my mom always told me no.
Yeah.
So anytime I spent the night at my grandparents' house and he had a gig, I would sneak and go. He was like, "Come on, Snowman," they call me Snowman.
Yeah.
Right. And I would go, and sometimes he would let me sit in and play. So I just started, getting into the groove of being out on the road, playing in bars and different things like that. And of course, along with church, traveling and playing for community choirs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It was a gift. It was something instilled in me. And it just kind of, spiraled out of control. Like I said, I think once I turned 16 and was making a little bit of money playing at churches, I started taking it serious.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kid, 16, 17 years old, I'm clocking probably about $1,500 a week playing for like playing with 3 or 4 churches. And I was like, oh, this is lucrative right here,
right.
at this age. So, I started kind of taking it a little bit more serious, but my goal still was to become a gynecologist.
Yeah.
So when I graduated high school at 17 years old, and I graduated from Eisenhower High out in Oklahoma.
Okay.
My uncle was military, so I went out there to Fort Sill, and went to Eisenhower High. So I was able to get out of high school at 11th grade, and when they told me that I would have enough credits, I was like, oh yeah, I'm done. Let's go. So I left Oklahoma, came back, went to the University of Memphis. With my goal is still to become a gynecologist. So my major was biology. My minor was music theory. I get to the University of Memphis, and I take my first physics class, and the professor puts up a equation on the board, and I was like, oh, I can't do this. I get up and walk out, right? So I'm like, oh my God, like this is crazy. But I endured it. And I started playing for the gospel choir. And I think then I developed the bug to start producing music. at
Gotcha.
that age.
Really?
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I saw a lot of, musicians, a lot of guys, in the studio doing different things like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a part of that whole movement. And I started developing a love for, just create beats and, create little tracks. And then we didn't have the technology like we have now.
Right.
So I had a little studio in my house in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Like most of us, how we start out when we begin this.
Yeah.
And, I had everybody coming up to the house, Rap Hustlers, Kusta, 36 Mafia, those guys. So, I just started doing my thing. I did a whole album on the barcades, so I looked at it as Memphis was one of those places where, for the type of music that I wanted to do, it wasn't a lucrative place. It was all about blues and soul music. Had some rap stuff, but it wasn't, if you weren't messing with 36 Mafia, then you wasn't really, moving. So I wind up going to Atlanta one weekend, and I had a homeboy that he called me. He said, Elvis, Leslie Brathworth is mixing my album. So I was like, all right, cool. I didn't know who Leslie was, right? Yeah. So I drive to Atlanta, and they're at a studio called Patchwork. And I go in the studio, and Leslie says, hey, what do you do? I said, well, I produce, I play. Yeah. He said, can you play? I said, yeah, I can play, right? So he asked me, he said, can you be here tomorrow at 4 o'clock? I said, yeah. I asked no questions or nothing, right?
Yeah.
I walk in the studio the next day at 4 o'clock. Manny Fresh and Juvenile is sitting in the room.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So right then and there, I said, I got to move. I had to move to Atlanta.
Right.
So I get back to Memphis, pack up the whole studio, and move to Atlanta on Fate. And that was, I didn't look back.
Man, so what was the first, I guess, big break that you got that really put your career on track?
Whew, man, I had success. It was like success overnight for me, but it wasn't, right? So I probably worked for about 3 years, starting in 02, 03. Probably worked for about 3 years, nothing, just trying to figure it out, going from studio to studio, traveling, doing things. And I was working with some pretty big artists, but the music hadn't came out yet, right? So I'm just working and working and working. Right. And in 2006, Glamorous came out by Fergie. Yeah. And that record went #1 in the world. Right. I never forget, I was in Memphis. I was at one of my friend's house, and I was in the attic in his studio. And at that time, my publisher had called me, Big John, and he said, Elvis, in the morning, you got the #1 record in the world. I said, oh, okay, cool. I didn't know what it meant, right? I was like, oh, okay.
Thanks for the call.
Yeah, thanks for the call. And the next day, stuff just started going pandemonium. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because that's one thing to just have a #1 record on R&B or whatever, but a #1 record in the world, right? That's life changing, right? So around 2005, 2006, Glamorous came out. By Fergie, Promise came out by Sierra, Kelly Rowland like this. So I probably had about 7 #1 records just overnight across the board. Wow. And it was pandemonium for me.
Talk to me about the Grammy. I mean, that's, I guess, the highest honor you can really receive.
Yeah, it is. I mean, man, we're so looking at the Grammys a little different now, but
yeah, I got you.
But no, that was a huge honor. Winning that, Sasha Fierce album. I did Ego for Beyonce. Yeah. And then Usher, I did Lil Freak featuring Nicki Minaj. That album won Best R&B Contemporary Album of the Year as well. So that was some pretty big moments, for me. It solidified. What it gave me was the solidification that the world, recognized my music and they loved it. Right. And, I was able to affect people's lives. Right. And that's the feeling. And of course I was able to charge a little bit more money now. Right, but,
that never hurt.
That never hurt, yeah. You can't go wrong with having some Grammys. So, yeah.
So what do you contribute your success to, though?
Oh, man. I did a lot of praying. Yeah. Did a lot of praying, and I did a lot of soul searching and just understanding who I was. Yeah. And becoming disciplined and working hard and just understanding that opportunity is finite, right? And I tell people all the time, they ask me, I said, well, somebody gave me an opportunity, but I took it. I didn't squander it.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
So
right.
every opportunity that I saw and I took, I also was prepared to deliver.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
You have to be prepared. Yeah.
Right. So preparation is key for me. So anytime I walked in a room or anytime somebody called me to do a record, I always delivered.
Yeah.
You know, I can't tell you how many times that I've been in a room and they don't call me for album fillers. I'm expensive, right? So when you need that single, right, you need something to come out in the next 2 weeks, that's when I'm getting the phone call, right? So me being able to deliver on those phone calls and walking in the room with those artists, you know, and having to deliver at the spur of the moment, I think that is the biggest part of my success, you know, story, being able to deliver. At the drop of a dime.
Speaking of being able to deliver, man, you did the intro music for this show, Self Made, as well as for HBCU, man. I'm forever grateful for that.
Man, listen.
I mean, you just no questions asked. You delivered for me, and I'm very appreciative. I want to talk about just over the years, achieving the level of success you did, like you said, virtually overnight. Who were the individuals in your life that were instrumental in helping you to get where you are?
Man, so many people. Like I named Leslie Bradford. He's a big engineer. And he probably don't even know this story. I haven't even talked to him about this, right? Of course, Polo the Don can ever, you know, diminish the you know, the presence he'd had in my life. And, you know, just over the years, man, like just people that I've been able to come into contact with that has kind of just gave me opportunities. You know, the music business is a dog-eat-dog world, you know, so it's almost like you have to be aggressive in that atmosphere and you have to be on all the time. Otherwise, people will look at you and be like, oh, you're not ready for success or you don't belong here. You get what I'm saying?
I understand completely.
So when you find one or two people that give you a shot, you got to take it, and it just blossoms from there. You know, I mean, I would say a lot of people helped me along the way, but those few people that I just named was like life changing for me. Those things was life changing.
So you being from Clarksdale, Mississippi, there's another great number of guys from Clarksdale like Rick Ross, Nate Dogg. Have you collaborated with those individuals?
Yeah, I did a record for Rick. This was back on his Triller album. Me and Trey Songz. It was a record called This Is the Life. We did that record. Then I also had Rick come to Clarksdale when I did, I think maybe my second or turkey giveaway.
I remember that.
I had him come down. So yeah, man, Rick, we've collaborated on a couple of things.
Okay. So you also have projects outside of the music industry. Tell me about some of the things you're working on and what inspired you.
Well, man, I think I found my purpose now. So back during the pandemic, I saw everything that was going on, you know, with Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd. And I just, you know, I was angry at first, but then I channeled my anger to what can I really, really do, right? How can I really, really make a real difference? And I got with my tech team and I said, hey guys, all this stuff is going on in the world and people got their cameras out, but nobody is intervening. Like we'll become, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess numb to watching people die. How can we sit and do that and not intervene or not say anything? So I got with my team and I created an organization called Hero. And Hero is an organization where we train people on how to interact with law enforcement. We teach them de-escalation, we teach them first aid, and we teach them mental crisis intervention. And it started out like that, but then I was in Miami last year, and I was at the W Hotel, and I went to Miami for a business meeting. And this specific date, they were having a festival called Rolling Loud. And so there's a lot of celebrities in town. And I'm at the W Hotel. I check in at about 10:30 that night, go to my room. I'm not going out. I'm not, you know, moving around, so I don't have any security with me. And about 6 o'clock in the morning, somebody's knocking at my door. Somebody's trying to get in, you know, like with a key. So I wake up and I go to the door. And before I can even get to the door, they're knocking. Bah, 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 right? And I'm like, oh my God, like who, like, who you looking for? Who is it? You know,
Yeah.
it's like, what do you know, who you looking for? What do you want? The guy says, I'm looking for a feature, right? So in my profession, when you say you're looking for a feature,
Yeah.
that's a musical term where I'm
Right.
like, well, what do you mean? It's 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
I don't have anything. Why are you talking about music? So, you know,
Right.
about to me at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I go to the door and I look out the peephole and I see him holding a gun. And when I see he's holding a gun, I immediately call hotel security because that's the first line of defense.
Right.
And secondly, knowing that they probably ain't got guns, I called 911.
Right. Right.
So I dialed 911, and the phone, she answered the phone, and the phone call is so egregious, right? Because she's trying to get information from me, and I'm trying to relay the information to her as quickly and accurate as possible, but still dealing with the threat,
Right.
that may be coming through my door.
Right.
And so she winds up hanging up the phone on me, and I wind up just being there, not knowing if police was going to ever show up, with the guy still at my door. So I had to make a real phone call.
Right.
So finally, hotel security comes and gets the guy away from the door, you know, eventually. But even before then, he's still beating. He's still trying to knock the hinges off the door.
Wow.
And I'm, in fear of my life. So at that point, I get back, and of course I'm upset, and I'm calling my lawyers, and I'm, about to sue everybody, blah, 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 right? And I said, you know what? Let me turn this negative into a positive. And we was already working on the Hero app, and I said, we need to take this a step further. So we started developing technology for the 911 dispatch centers. So when you call 911 from our Hero Alert app, they can see exactly what's going on in real time.
Yeah.
They have your location. They have, your phone number. All of the questions that they ask,
Right.
while you're in danger.
Right. It
All
provides it.
Yeah, it provides it, right? So it cuts out that time between, the caller and 911 dispatchers. And not only that, their pain point is, how can we get that information over to first responders
Right.
quicker, right? It also deals with that issue as well. So by them getting that information more quicker and more accurately, they can relay that to first responders in the same manner.
Right.
Right. And that's what we've been doing. That's what I've been working on probably for the last 6 months now.
Okay.
We had to take about a year, but we've really been deving this 911 dispatch technology out. And I think in June we're going to roll out our first pilot.
Okay.
So we can test and stress the system and do updates and all that stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm excited.
No, that's sounds like a very useful app that'll be needed actually. So
yes.
this will be available in the app stores, all your Google
everywhere. It'll be available everywhere. I always tell people, I think about it like this. We have Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts. We have McDonald's, Burger King.
Right.
We got one public safety system in this entire country. It's 911, right? If a dog is stuck in a tree, they call it 911. If a homeless man is doing something irate, they're calling 911. So we put so much stress on our, 911 system. It's like they're not going to respond to everything.
Right.
So I wanted to kind of give them something useful to where okay, you know what, this can help save people's lives, and also give people an alternate resource. Instead of calling 911, then we have a button on the app to where you can call a mental crisis center, right? That's in your area to help de-escalate situations where maybe your loved one or somebody or you can recognize somebody that's having a crisis, situation.
Right.
Don't call the police, right?
Right.
Because when those people are having those issues, when the police show up, it escalates the situation.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, when, a person sees a uniform or authority figure, it's going to escalate.
Right.
So we're trying to make sure it's always de-escalation in every scenario.
So you've had an amazing career, and I know you have a lot of runway in front of you as well. Yeah. What accomplishments are you most proud of?
Oh, man. You know what I always tell people? I say you're only as great as your last hit.
Right.
Right. So, but I've had so many, big records. Just my music being able to touch so many people.
Right.
I think it's good. It's my gift to the world.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Now I'm focusing on what else do I have to offer.
Right, right.
Becoming clear. Understanding my purpose. Right. Hero has now become my real
Right.
focus.
Right.
And I'm still doing music, and I'm doing stuff in the metaverse and NFTs and all of that good stuff. But hero to me is my purpose in life.
Right.
At least one of them.
Yeah. What do you contribute your success to?
Oh man, just hard work. Like I had a really, really great foundation growing up. My mom, my dad, they were, grew up middle class. So I had a really, really great foundation, growing up. Like I said, my mom kept us in church, so I just always stayed grounded.
Right.
Having kids would keep somebody like me grounded, right?
Right.
Becoming successful with kids keeps you grounded, because if I didn't, I think if I didn't have kids, then I probably would be doing
Right.
a whole bunch of more stuff, right? But now
right.
I think before I, do things, and I was like, wait, you know what?
I got it.
Yeah. Don't go buy that Ferrari. You know what I'm saying? Just, just go get the Porsche or something. Something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just being able to kind of make better decisions for myself and for my family, they've really kept me grounded. And I think that has really kept me, in a successful mode to where I can keep reinventing myself.
Right.
Time after time, not spiraling out of control.
Yeah. Look, that's important. And
Yeah.
we all need something that's bigger than ourselves.
Yep.
That we have to get up every day and make it happen for.
Yep.
Because, and I'm going to steal this a little quick. I actually heard Deion Sanders say this, but it actually summed up how I felt about it. It's like you'll give up on yourself sometimes, but when you have someone else, whether it's your kids, your mom, your family, but when you have someone else that you're making it happen for, you won't give up on them. So I think that's a very important thing to know. If you had to give advice to a young person aspiring to be an entrepreneur, aspiring to be in the music business, what would you tell them?
Work hard. And, don't squander any opportunity. Every opportunity you get, take it.
Yeah.
And run with it.
Right.
And always be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared to deliver. I can't stress that enough. Like that gets you in the room.
That's right.
That keeps you in the room.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. My philosophy is that I never want to look back and say that I squandered an opportunity. So whenever I do something, people who know me know I always talk about being at 150% at all times, because I feel like the benchmark that everybody should live by is 100%, right? I mean, 100% means that you just did everything you're supposed to do, right? So that's what everybody who really want to be successful should be doing 100%.
You're right.
So how do you go above and beyond? Like, how do you give that, they say, okay, D, you should only do, 5 episodes a day. Okay, I'm going to do 9.
There you go.
Because I don't want to be ever labeled as mediocre.
Yep.
So I agree that there's some good advice. But you said something else too that I want to, you talked about when you were in Memphis and you saw that you really couldn't be who you want to be in Memphis, and you went to Atlanta and you saw that there was opportunity there, and you immediately said, you know what?
Yeah.
I got to move. And so many people who have talents and skills, they're in environments where they can't really excel.
Right.
But they won't move. They won't leave that environment. They got all the potential, all the talent in the world, but they are afraid to take their show on the road to achieve the success that they really want.
It's fear.
Yeah, it's fear.
Fear. Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't even live my life. I don't even know what the word fear means.
Right.
like literally, I bet on myself every time, whether I lose or win.
Right.
And I've lost a lot of times, but I've won, You know, a lot of
A
times
lot.
my wins make up for
the losses.
For the losses.
That's the name of the game.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
And you have to know that, and you have to understand that that's how the world operates. That's life.
Right.
You know?
I have this analogy that I use. I said success is like making a pot of gumbo. And failure is just one of the ingredients that you put in to create that success.
That's good.
And if you are not willing to fail, I don't see how you can ever succeed, because success is not without risk. It requires a significant level of faith and trust, hard work, dedication, and commitment to make it happen.
Yep.
So just in closing, what do you think the importance of family is to your success?
I mean, everything. Family is everything. Like I said, you know, my family has kept me grounded. It keeps me going. And you're right. Like when I want to just not do anything, you know, it's bigger than me.
Right, and that's,
You know?
and I think that's a good note to close the show out on, because family is very, very important to
Very important.
success and life and happiness. And I thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And to my viewers, I want to thank you for watching this episode of Self Made with Dee Brown CEO. And remember, without you, there's no me.